Live. Streaming over.
All right, here we go.
Almost 50%. Come on, Facebook. And we are live. Hello, A Mighty Blaze. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I'm thrilled to be here with a Mighty Mystery interview with Julie Clark, here to tell us about her brand new book, The Last Flight. Julie, welcome to A Mighty Blaze. Tell us about your book.
Thank you. Well, The Last Flight is a story of Claire Cook, and Claire has married into a very powerful political family, second only to the Kennedys. Her husband, Rory, is beloved by the entire country. Everybody loves them. They're sort of like the love story that you read about on, the pages of People magazine. But what people don't know is that Rory is dangerous behind closed doors, and he's escalating. Claire is not your typical abused wife. She understands how very strong, smart women can find themselves in these types of relationships. And she's certainly not one to back down. But she has had enough. She sees kind of how things are going and it's not going to get better, and she's fed up. She also knows that she cannot leave a powerful family like the Cook family. You don't just walk away from that. So she has developed a plan to disappear, to vanish. She knows that Rory will never let her go. So she assembles what she needs to disappear. She's got a plan. She's going to disappear across the border from Detroit. She's got an ID. She's got a passport. She's got money squirreled away. She's ready to go. At the last minute, of course, her plan falls apart. And she finds herself being sent to Puerto Rico for a humanitarian event for the family. And she is moments away from Rory discovering what she was about to do. He's going to Detroit, where all of her stuff was supposed to play out. So she's alone at the airport, and she meets another woman in a bar, Eva, who seems equally desperate to escape things in her own life that aren't going the way that she wants them to go. The women hatch a plan to trade plane tickets. Claire will travel to Oakland as Eva, and Eva will travel to Puerto Rico as Claire. And they think that this will sort of give them an opportunity to disappear in a place where nobody will look for them. And so they do. They trade bags, they trade purses, they trade clothes, they trade everything, and they board each other's respective flights. And when Claire lands in Oakland, she learns that the Puerto Rico flight crashed. And so now she finds herself stranded in Oakland. She has nothing. She has no money. She has Eva's wallet, Eva's, keys, Eva's driver's license. And so she decides to hide out at Eva's house. The whole world thinks she's dead, basically. And so she does. But what she doesn't realize is that Eva wasn't honest with her about what she was running from. And there are people on the ground in California who have noticed that Eva has gone missing. So that is The Last Flight. It's a Julie POV, yeah.
Oh my God, Julie, I'm sweating. I'm actually sweating. I'm already sucked in and completely obsessed. I need to know what happens. I just want to welcome our viewers and say, if anyone has any questions for Julie, just go ahead and put them right in the chat box, and I will pass them on to her. This is your chance to put her under a mighty magnifying glass. We can ask her anything. So go ahead and do that. And while we are, I'll keep the conversation going with sharing some of her amazing reviews. So the New York Times book review says The Last Flight is thoroughly absorbing, not only because of its tantalizing plot and deft pacing, but because of its unexpected poignancy and its satisfying, if bittersweet, resolution. The characters get under your skin. Wow, what a review that every author dreams of. The New York Journal of Books says this is a powerful, high-octane, suspenseful read. Wow. The Library Journal gave it a starred review. Julie, congratulations, saying Clark is an exceptional writer, highly recommended for fans of thrillers, mysteries, and crime fiction. I think we can all resonate with that right here on Mighty Mysteries. People.com says The Last Flight is a page turner. Entertainment Weekly says a premise that sounds highly thrilling takes its share of poignant terms. Wow. And then you have absolutely incredible, we're getting thumbs up from the audience. Yay. Gail says, great premise. Gail, we totally agree. I could go on and on reading review after review. Oh my God. Kirkus gave you a starred review, and you know that ain't easy, calling this a tense and engaging woman-centric thriller. Oh my God. Publishers Weekly also gave you a star reviews, stars across the board for Julie. The moral dilemmas that the multifaceted, realistic characters face in their quest for survival lend weight to this pulse-pounding tale of suspense. Clark is definitely a writer to watch. Whew, Julie, oh my God, congratulations. These are reviews that every author dreams of. And I want to pause on that last one, woman-centric. So you have written a book with 2 strong female leads. Tell us about that.
Well, it was really important for me to be mindful of how I portray women on the page. You know, I think we all kind of are watching the world around us right now, where women are called to question all the time. Our credibility is questioned constantly. We are criticized for things and saying things and doing things that, you know, men aren't. And it plays out in a lot of really microaggressive ways. And so for me as an author, I feel like I have a responsibility to write strong, smart, savvy women. We all love to see the woman triumph in the end. So, you know, that's something that was really important to me. As an educator, as a mom, it's important that I put women on the page that I want my students and I want my sons to feel like they recognize and they know.
Yes, exactly. And I'm seeing behind you, A Woman's Place is in the White House. Amen
Yes.
to that. And I think it's so important because when first of all, everyone deserves to see themselves on the page. And if we are only reading about women who are kind of victims or not believed or in a more passive role where it's kind of like, help me, I'm a woman, that is sending a certain message to our girls about what they can be, and it's sending a message to boys about what they can expect. So thank you for this, because women need to see themselves in strong roles, and the more that we normalize that, the more it'll be normal.
We do a great job in middle grade and young adult fiction of giving our kids really strong, powerful female role models. And then, you know, and we see a lot of it in adult fiction too. But, you know, for me personally, you know, writing a thriller, I didn't want either of my female characters to be unreliable in any way. You know, they make bad choices. They're definitely flawed, both of them. They both have made choices in their lives that they wish they hadn't made, and that doesn't make them an unreliable person. It just makes them human. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we all have made mistakes.
Yeah, I think we've been reading about flawed men for millennia. So time to see some flawed women up on that page.
Yeah.
Julie, we have a lot of, The Blaze is both a community of passionate writers and passionate readers. Tell us how you write a pulse-pounding thriller. I'm pulling from some of your amazing reviews. Tell us your secrets. How do you do that?
Very slowly. You know, with this particular book, it was challenging because it's a dual POV and a dual timeline. So we have Claire in the present time moving forward and Eva in the past and leading up to the events where she and Claire ultimately meet at the airport. I only have the 2 women in one scene together. So juggling that and making sure that the consistency between the 2 and making sure that if something shows up in Eva's chapters, then we need to also see something about that in Claire's chapters was really challenging. Chapter endings are really important. You have to make sure you leave the character at a moment of high crisis or a moment where a decision needs to be made. You know, and just really threading the emotion through all of it is what I believe turns the pages. Not just plot, but the emotional journey of each character too is equally important and needs to be weighted. So.
That is fascinating, especially because you have been noted for writing a character and emotional driven plot. I think a lot of people think of thrillers as plot driven narrative, but you have written, one might say, a deeper sort of story. And you feel, interestingly, that is the source of what creates a turn the page, burning, must stay up until 3 a.m. and finish story. That's fascinating. Did you know that heading in, or did that become clear to you through the process?
It's how I write. So like my first book was an upmarket fiction book. So it was very emotionally driven. It had an emotional journey at the center of the plot. Those are the books that I personally love to read as well. And so I had the idea for The Last Flight and I wanted to write it. I was fascinated by this idea of, could you literally step out of your life and disappear? Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. And I wanted to figure out how I could get my character to be able to do this. So the question then was, well, why would anybody need to do that? Why would anybody want to do that? And not only I didn't need to come up with it for one person, I needed to come up with it for two people. So that was a little challenging as well. But I feel like that what turns the page is not just the plot. I mean, that's how I personally write. So my debut, The Ones We Choose, was a very emotional page turner. And, you know, that was sort of, it was reviewed as such. And so I sort of brought that skill into the thriller genre. I didn't set out to write a thriller. That wasn't what I started to do. When I finished the manuscript, my agent read it and she goes, "This is a thriller." And I thought, oh. And so then I needed to go back and kind of figure out, well, how does one write a thriller? You know, and there was a lot of work to be done in figuring out how to structure the book and pace the book. And I have some really great writer friends that are very gifted thriller writers who dove right in and helped and gave feedback. And that was really helpful. And so once we figured out this is a thriller, I didn't want to lose that emotional piece. I didn't want to lose that. So I am straddling genres, if you will. You know, it's an emotional thriller, not just a straight up high octane thriller.
I think I'm fascinated. And by the way, if anyone has any questions, just type them right in the chat box. Otherwise, I've got so many. I'm fascinated that you wrote a thriller and didn't know you wrote a thriller. And then, I mean, that's so amazing. And then went back and sort of refined it in this way with the help of your writer friends. But that you could write a book that is so, I mean, look at this praise. It's amazing. Okay, first of all, I want to back up. How long did it take you to write this start to finish?
My first draft took me about 3 or 4 months to get down. And then it took me about 18 months of rewrites and revisions and struggling. And it was really hard. I mean, it was a hard book for me to write because I was learning a lot about the genre. I was learning a lot about jumping out of the upmarket lane and into the thriller lane. I was learning a lot about dual POVs and timelines and pacing and reveals and all of the things that you don't necessarily think about when you're writing upmarket fiction as much, especially the reveals. The pacing is always important no matter what you write. Mm-hmm. But for this, it was just a lot of learning. It was very uncomfortable, which is how I knew I was doing it well. So.
How would you say that? What was the source of your learning? Was it your friends? All those things that you just listed, the pacing, the reveal. And I think, you know, as you said, every story does have, you got to keep those pages going, even if you're not writing a thriller, but especially in a thriller. So tell us how you educated yourself in those 18 months.
I read a lot of really great thrillers. Please don't ask me to name them all right now because I'm like, well, I can't think. I can't think past last Tuesday. But I really immersed myself in the genre and read a lot of thrillers, and just talked to a lot of thriller writers that I'm friends with. And I was able to, I think Save the Cat was really helpful for me. That writing book, it's a screenwriting book actually. And so I read that book and that sort of helped me think about how I might hit some of those beats a little harder. It was really just kind of figuring things out one day at a time. It was not an easy process at all.
Yeah. And I think I can attest, I'm writing multiple points. I'm writing 4 points of view now. And I realize way more than I could chew.
No,
What was I
no,
thinking?
yeah, that's
Poor
crazy.
jerk.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, I feel bad for myself, even though I did it to myself. Tell us about the title. Was this number one? Was this number 101? Tell us.
We didn't have a title for a very long time, a very, very long time. All the way up until March of last year, really, right before we went out on submission, and my agent didn't love any of the titles I came up with. I came up with probably hundreds of them. I would send her emails with lists of 25, 50, and she would just email back and say, keep trying, you know, I'm not feeling any of these, keep trying. And finally, we were talking about how we felt like the word flight needed to be in the title as sort of a play on words of not just an airplane, but also the emotional flight of the characters. And so then we just started talking about, okay, the final flight, and we landed on the last flight. And we went back and forth for a little while about should it be last flight or the last flight, or maybe the last flight out. We went back and forth on all of that and finally landed on the last flight, and that we were very lucky. The publisher loved it and didn't want to change it, but if they had, it would have been fine because I wasn't really attached to it. It was just, we just needed something to go out on submission with.
I like that you landed on this one. I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for, Julie. So what are some of the ones that ended up on the cutting room floor that you kind of were attached to?
You know, they were really too upmarket for what the book was. So my working title for a long time was When I Knew You, which nobody understood. Nobody got it. And I'm not sure even I understood it, but it was what I worked with for a while. I loved the title Chasing Eva, but nobody wanted that one.
Ooh, I love it.
I know. I thought that was good too, but no. Yeah, I loved, I think there was one Chasing the Sun, because there's a chapter in the end where, well, I won't say anything, but anyway, yeah. So there were a lot of titles that I liked, but no, I'm not good with titles. I'm not good with titles at all.
When you hit on this one, were you like, was there a deep down sense of, right, were you like, this is it? Or was it just like, here's number 351 and everyone was like, this is it? And you're like, oh, thank God.
That's what happened. That's what happened. My agent got back to me and she said, I love it. And I thought, oh, she's kidding, right? No, she can't love it. It couldn't be that easy.
Thank you, God. She finally liked something. Tell us about the cover.
You know, Sourcebooks has such a great art department. I had no idea what to expect with the cover. As you know, as an author, it's always kind of a crapshoot what you're going to end up with. And generally you don't love your cover the first time they show it to you, and you don't like the art and they have to go back, and, you know, and so when my editor emailed me, said I had the cover, you know, and I thought, oh God, you know, find a quiet place, sit down, take a deep breath, you know, open your mind. It might not be what you imagine, but that doesn't mean that it won't be good. Just take a breath before you react. And I opened the email and immediately was like, that is amazing. I just loved it. They hit it on the first try, which I feel is not very common.
That's amazing. And I actually read a study, I think like 10 years ago, that women buy more books with red covers than any other kind of cover.
Oh, well, if anybody would know that, Sourcebooks would, because they are very data driven. They like to look at their numbers, and they love all of that stuff. They are very smart about things like that. So that doesn't surprise me. Wow.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that the cover was an easy journey, considering that the title was a longer.
I feel very lucky too.
So tell us about your writing practice. You know, are you a morning writer? Do you rise with the sun? Are you working by moonlight? Are you struggling? Do the words flow easily? What's it look like at Julie's desk?
I'm a morning writer, and I don't write at my desk. I write in bed because I wake up at 3:45 every morning to write. I write from 4. I give myself 15 minutes to get my coffee and get settled, get my pillows all put where they need to be. My acupuncturist, my massage therapist, they hate hearing that I write in bed, but I'm sorry, I do. And I write from 4 to 6 every morning. And then I have to get up and get started on my work day, get started parenting, do all of the things that I need to do as a mom. And after work, I'm too tired, I'm too spent, I can't think to write. So really early morning is the time when I feel the most focused, and you know, I'm tired, but my brain feels almost soft enough to like let myself go to places that I might not go to otherwise, that I'm not paying close attention to. So it's almost like a subconscious thing that happens. And it's just how I've always, always, always been. So I've tried, sometimes I worry, like when I'm on a deadline and I'm working in the afternoon and I'm like, oh, I'll save that scene for this afternoon. And I think, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that well in the afternoon. I may need to save that for tomorrow morning, you know?
Totally. And it's so interesting because actually Brenda Janowitz, who was actually the first author we featured. She's an author in her own right. Her own book, The Grace Kelly Dress, just came out, was amazing. It had a lot of mystery elements to it. She's also the book reviewer for Pop Sugar. She posted recently, like a week or so ago, and she said the same thing, that in the morning, her brain is sort of soft and more pliable and more open, and she's not self-editing. And I thought, oh, that's exactly how I feel at midnight. I'm a night writer. Oh, cool. The only time I'm up at 3 is when I'm still up at 3, which sometimes I am.
I couldn't do that. I am an early to bed person. I always have been. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually genetic, and there's not really much you can do. Like if you have a job that makes you get up, you can force yourself, but you're never going to feel great. It's completely genetic. It's so fascinating.
I believe that. Yeah.
So you wake up at 3:45 with no alarm, or?
Oh, no, I have an alarm. Yeah. No,
okay. For one terrifying second, I thought maybe your eyes just opened and you were like, good morning.
They do. Sometimes they do. It's like sometimes on a Saturday or Sunday, my body will wake up at 3:45 and I'll be like, no, not today. So
what time do you go to bed to get up that early? I have to know.
Between like 8:30 and 9 usually.
Okay. Yeah. So you're still getting your sleep. It's just early.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to. I mean, yes, sleep is very important to me. It's a priority.
Exactly. Definitely a priority for me as well. Julie, what is some of the worst writing advice that you ever got and you thought, I can't believe I let that hold my back, that you want to get the word out, this is not something you should follow? Also, conversely, what's the best writing advice you got or you'd like to share with us?
I don't know about worst writing advice. I think for everybody it's different. And so it's like parenting advice, you know, I mean, don't shake the baby. Like that's good advice. Yeah. But as far as the best writing advice I got from a book, and it really just said, in order to publish, you have to do two things. You have to think of yourself as a worker, and then you have to show up at the job. I mean, and that's it. Like, I am the worker. This is the work to be done. And I just have to show up and do it every day. And I can tell you that you can write an entire book. You can write 2 books. You can write as many books as you want, just in 2 hours every day. You don't have to have big, long stretches of time. You don't have to, have a writing space, and you don't have to have, unlimited hours at your disposal in order to write your novel. You really don't.
So you don't need, what was it Virginia Woolf said, in a room of one's own and 80 pounds a week or something, or 80 bucks, I forget what it was, but it was something like a room of one's own and this pension. There's a very,
I think it's really nice if you can do that. But I have found that when I have time to myself from my kids or from work or whatever, I'm not as productive as I am when I'm doing everything,
That's so interesting. Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think this is also really empowering for everyone who's watching, who is a mom and who does have a job, which all of us have jobs and multiple roles to fill. And so I think I'm finding it very comforting and very empowering, because if we know that this is true, that you can write a book or many books in 2 hours a day, and you said 3 to 4 months to get your first draft done and 18 months to revise it, it empowers all of us to show up and write those books that are lurking in us, instead of thinking that this is something that only a select few people have, or it has to look a certain way. So thank you for empowering people and making it feel more accessible.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too that is important to remember is that when you're writing a book, when you're writing the first draft especially, and you don't know your characters very well and you're not quite sure what you're doing, that happens with every book. Every author sits down, if you ask them, and they'll say there is a window of time where you are basically, committing to a marriage that isn't quite working, and that you're not really happy there, and you're mostly unsatisfied, and your needs are not being met. And you are committed, though, to sitting down and working through it. And every book has that window of time where you are just not happy with any of it. And that's when a lot of writers, I think, walk away from their idea. They say, this isn't working, I'm going to do something else. And that's how you end up with a lot of half-finished novels. So I think it's important to stick with it and to not, and to always know that whatever it isn't today, the beautiful thing about writing is that you can fix it and change it again and change it again and change it one more time to make it work. You can make it work, but it's a lot of work. It doesn't happen naturally. So
we're getting a lot of love, a lot of thumbs up and hearts up on all of this. So thank you. Lisa Barr says, happy launch day.
Thank you,
Lisa. And I think Lisa's interviewing you on
Thursday, yes.
Thursday right here on A Mighty Blaze for tuning in on that. Barbara says, I'm so excited for your new book. Oh, we're getting so much love, so many hearts and so many thumbs up on this. So thank you for sharing all of that. Clearly it's resonating. Barbara says, happy launch day. Thank you everybody for these wonderful wishes for Julie. If you have any questions for her, she's here to answer them. So just type them right in the chat box. I will pass them along. If you have any questions you want to ask her, this is our chance. So go right ahead. And yeah, again, and I have a few more questions myself, but yeah, anyone, this is your time with Julie. Everyone says they're so excited for our conversation. Do you have a favorite scene from your book?
I love the airport scene where Claire and Eva are meeting for the first time. We see it from Eva's point of view. And I went back and forth and wrote that chapter probably 50 times, both from Claire's point of view and Eva's point of view. And I ended up keeping it at Eva's point of view because Eva knows what she's doing in that moment and Claire does not. But Eva needs Claire to think that Claire knows what she's doing. So it was a very manipulative chapter to write. And I really realized that the only person who could tell that would be Eva. So Eva kind of gets Claire to believe that it's Claire's idea to trade tickets. But what Claire doesn't know is that Eva has approached her with this very purpose in mind.
Ooh, I am intrigued. I cannot wait. And that's the one scene where they're together.
That's right? The only scene where they're together in interacting with each other. And after that, they're just not together anymore. And then the other favorite chapter that I have is the last chapter, the epilogue, which I can't say anything about, but it is maybe one of my favorite chapters in the book. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited to read it. So tell us, what is one thing you want people to feel when they read this book?
I want them to be completely immersed and engaged and invested in Claire and Eva and them both kind of getting what they want out of life. I want them to kind of be thinking about the things that matter to them in their own lives. I want them thinking about what are some things that I would be willing to fight for and give up my entire life to get that matters to me. And if you're lucky, you already have them or you have the most important ones. But I mostly want people to see, I feel strongly that, women who find themselves in abusive situations aren't there because they're weak, and they're not there because they're not smart, and they're not there because they deserve it, and they're not there because they asked for it. It's just really, really important to me that, we start kind of taking women seriously and trying to understand there's a lot of societal things at play that make it so that women are often at the mercy of men. And that I think has to change.
Yeah, that definitely has to change. And it's interesting because I was having this conversation with our fellow author, who's also a Blaze author, Asha Humans, who's half of the Ali and Asha writing team. And she and I were just talking offline a couple of weeks ago, and we were saying that actually, for such a pervasive problem, there is no script for how we deal with helping someone who's in a situation like that, for how to even speak about it, for how to intercede with them, for how to offer help, to how to approach, to whether it's our business or not our business. It's such a pervasive problem, and yet it's completely unscripted because nobody is comfortable to talk about it or wants to talk about it. So thank you for putting that on the page because it's so freaking important. And we need to get this out there, and we need to start talking about it more so that we can figure these things out and have some have some maps in place. So thank you.
Well, it starts with taking women's words for what, to believing them, it's not something that women do lightly.
Which brings us back to exactly where we started, which is why you have chosen not to pursue the unreliable narrator path, because we need to start taking women seriously and start believing women's stories.
Well, I just know a lot more strong, savvy women than I know crazy women. I don't know any crazy women. I don't know if you do, but I don't. So, I don't know anybody like that to really be able to write them well. There's that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And thank you for saying that. Because it's important that we start to, again, to put on the page, because I think these things become sort of urban legend, or, because we're seeing them so much. Okay. I feel like we've been talking for a second, but we've been talking for half an hour. I want to get us to the lightning round.
Okay.
Do you see this ideally as a Netflix series or on the big screen? What do you see it as?
It's hard to say. That there are pros and cons to both. I think it lends itself really well to film because it has a very definitive end. But I do know that when you are making a feature film, you cannot spend time on the backstory of a character, and Eva's entire POV is all in the past. And so in that case, I think TV would lend itself to really kind of dive into her character and what matters to her. And it's so critical to the overall book. You can't write it out. So I'm going to not answer that question because there are other people who are better at that than I am. So there's pros and cons for both.
Did you have an actress or actor in mind when you were writing this?
I'm the worst when it comes to casting my books because I don't visualize my characters specifically. Mm-hmm. They're very fuzzy in my imagination. And that's the same when I read books as well, written by other people. I don't love to have characters that are described in great detail all the way down to the way their hair curls and the shade of blue of their eyes or whatever. It just distracts me. So I don't write that way, and I don't imagine my characters that way. They're very fuzzy in my imagination. So it's really hard for me to picture who, and I know no actresses. I'm the worst when it comes to Hollywood. I live in Los Angeles. I ate lunch next to Helen Hunt once, and I didn't even know she was sitting right next to me. My friend was like, after she left, said, "Did you see who that was?" And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Pass the bread. What? Yeah, I know two actresses, like I know of them. I don't know them. I know Julia Roberts. I know Jennifer Garner. And those are the only two people I know. So, well, I might know Reese Witherspoon too, but, so I don't know. I was talking to some producers last fall, and they were throwing names of people out for Eva or Claire. And for 90% of them, I had to Google who they were. I didn't know who they were. Yeah. It's just not my thing.
Interesting. Yeah. Some people are so visual and some people aren't.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, cool. So would you, if you were going camping, would you rather go camping with Bram Stoker or Anne Rice?
Anne Rice for sure.
Road trip with Mary Shelley or Shirley Jackson?
Shirley Jackson.
She seems like she'd be a good time unless there was a lottery, and then I would not want to be in that lottery. You're at sleepaway camp. Your roommate choices are Arthur Conan Doyle or Edgar Allan Poe.
That's a hard one.
That is
probably Arthur Conan Doyle because Edgar Allan Poe is pretty weird.
Yeah, I think I would not want.
I know that I'd sleep well if Edgar Allan Poe is in the bed next to mine.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to have Poe in the next sleeping bag.
Yeah.
What's a word that you would never use because it gives you the heebie-jeebies?
Moist.
That one doesn't bother me because I like moist chocolate cake. Stuck in Area 54 with H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King?
Stephen King for sure, only because he's highly entertaining.
Highly entertaining. You could probably chat about writing, and if somebody needed to do the zombie kill shot, King's probably going to know how to do it.
I'd probably be really self-conscious though about how many adverbs I use in a sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Because as the aliens are coming for you, he's gonna pause that action and turn to you and be like, Julie, you've got to cut those adverbs down.
Yeah, it's too many, girl. Yeah.
Or he offers you up. He's like, take her. She uses too many adverbs.
Full of adverbs. Take her.
She's tasty. She's juicy. She uses adverbs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Julie, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, we have a special partnership with bookshop.org, so you can buy Julie's book and support independent bookstores, which we all know and love. So the link, my partner in crime, Jenna Blanc, brilliant novelist and social media partner, she is linking it right there. So you can support independent bookstores and get your hands on The Last Flight, which has received this incredible reviews from everyone I just started the interview with, including the New York Times. Oh my God, amazing. So thank you so much for joining us on A Mighty Blaze. Thank you for joining us for a Mighty Mystery interview, and we cannot wait to have you back for your next book.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome.